Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Tesla in the news. Very popular, very shorted, very loved, sort of very questioned auto manufacturer. You can't talk about Tesla, of course, without talking about Elon Musk, the iconoclastic, visionary, charismatic leader, an individual who's very interesting, very compelling, has developed quite a following. There are, in effect, many believers in Musk and in the Musk brand, which includes these companies that he's involved with. He's sort of an easy guy to take shots at. There is, at times, certainly a bit of hubris, pride, and almost Trumponian Twitter type of a presence. Anyone who disagrees with him is not only incorrect or wrong, they're maybe even a little bit stupid or immoral. So you don't want to be on the wrong side of Elon Musk. We have seen that that type of personality is the type of personality that makes certain people feel confident in the individual, that they're so sure of themselves that they derive a following. In Musk's case, of course, he has applied vision to a number of his different pursuits and has done so quite successfully and developed it into now a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, a market cap company that is running neck and neck with Ford and GM. It is an extraordinary story, and Elon Musk is sort of an extraordinary individual. But I think it's fair to say an individual, particularly when you get into the mature phase of a major multi-billion-dollar automotive manufacturer, who there is some question as to whether is going to be the person that is going to either cause a collapse or lead into the promised land. So, of course, most people are aware, if you follow Tesla or you follow Elon Musk, you know that in August there was a tweet referring to a $420 sort of buyout or taking private of Tesla. It was met initially with a spike in the stock price, about $7 billion appreciation in market cap over the course of August 7th, the day that he made the tweet. Within a few days after that, that had sort of all been wiped out. And then within a couple of weeks from the peak, it had decreased about $20 billion in market cap. So it was a fairly substantial response. And of course, the problem with the tweet in the first place was that it was difficult for market insiders to ascertain why someone would view Tesla as being worth significantly more when it would not have access to public capital markets. I mean, really, Elon Musk's ability to raise capital predominantly has been through these public capital markets, and once you go private, you no longer have access to those public capital markets, which makes raising funds more difficult and more expensive. And given where Tesla was, it was just something that didn't really seem to make much sense. Sure enough, a couple weeks later, Musk backed off of that and sort of admitted that that wasn't going to happen. There, of course, has been an SEC investigation. It's been determined throughout the course of that investigation that there wasn't any really serious reason to believe that from Elon Musk's standpoint, for him to believe that the company was going to be financed and go private, that if that at most there was sort of a lightweight conversation that certainly didn't justify the public proclamation that Musk made to shareholders, to the public, to investors, which of course resulted in a lot of volatility in the share price. And anytime there's volatility in share price in the capital markets, it's a bad thing. Money just kind of flitters away when that occurs, and Musk was responsible for that. Ultimately responsible for a $20 billion decrease from peak to trough because of the statement and the lack to back the statement up, and then a $20 million fine for Musk and another $20 million fine for Tesla. Along with that, Elon Musk has been forced out of his role of chairman of Tesla. He'll still be the CEO, but as a part of the agreement with the SEC, he's agreed to step down as chairman. There's also an agreement in place that future tweets by executives will be vetted by in-house legal counsel with Tesla. And obviously, they're predominantly referring to Elon Musk. He's probably the only executive that they're really concerned about at this point in time. And they want to shake the board up a little bit as well. All this actually may be good for Tesla investors. Elon Musk, as a visionary, as a individual who can raise extraordinary capital funds, has sort of served his role with Tesla. Less Elon Musk at this point, more of sort of establishment manufacturers, individuals who know the ins and outs of actually having an assembly line, putting a car together, sourcing all of the parts, ensuring quality control, all the things that aren't really in Musk's wheelhouse, but that are part and parcel to building cars on a mass scale. These types of individuals need to have a little bit more of a say in the direction of Tesla. 100,000 threshold of Model 3s sold. They're just about to cross the 200,000 threshold of total EVs, electric vehicles sold. That's going to begin to diminish beginning next year. Essentially, the tax break, $7,500 tax credit at the 200,000 car mark gets cut in half and then eventually goes away. So cars effectively are going to start costing quite a bit more for consumers. And so whether the company can keep up its sales pitch and in particular can actually make a profit at the prices that they've discussed over time remains to be seen. And that's going to be a fairly significant hurdle to cross, and frankly, a hurdle that they're going to need to cross in the near future if they want to maintain their value for shareholders. Tesla has a Model S. They have the Model X, which is an SUV, an extremely high-performance SUV, by the way, just an unbelievably high-performance SUV, but a very expensive SUV. And then they have the Model 3. And the Model S, the Model X, the Model 3 all get very good ratings as far as what the vehicle is. It is kind of extraordinary, the type of performance that they've gotten out of EV, the fact that the old electrical vehicle model was kind of a golf cart model, and now it's become sexy in the way of Ferrari. So it's been an extraordinary thing that they've done. These are ultimately cars for higher income individuals, for fairly high income individuals. The Model 3 was supposed to be a car for the masses, $35,000 base price. Hasn't come to pass. Musk is still sort of promising that once they're doing 5,000 cars a month, particularly 5,000 Model 3s a month, for 3 to 6 months was his last statement, then they're going to come out with this $35,000 Model 3. Right now, the base price is $49,000. It's a higher performance with more extras, but that's the lowest cost model they're selling, and it goes up into the 80s. So it's and they've sold a fantastic number of these very expensive cars. The recent quarter, they're something like number 5 top-selling car. It's pretty extraordinary given how expensive the car is. The cars above them are Toyotas and Hondas, Corollas and Camrys and Accords and things of that nature. So it's extraordinary what they've done. However, it's probably not sustainable. There's a reason why $50,000 cars, $60,000 cars don't typically make the top 10 best-selling, much less the top 15 best-selling or the top 5 best-selling. So you can anticipate that that type of ability to sell is particularly in the United States, isn't going to go on forever. They want to make 10,000 cars a month. That's the goal. They're going to probably have to start selling cars overseas. China's kind of a mess right now with the tariffs. There's an article recently that suggested it's essentially increased the cost of a Model 3 by $30,000, these tariffs. So they're probably going to lose sales in China until that tariff dispute gets resolved. And they're also going to be prone to the same things that have sort of been creating headwinds to other auto manufacturers, particularly Ford and Chevy, who on a share basis have had a bad few months. Ford's CEO recently said that they had lost $1 billion due to the tariff effect on metals, on the components that they use to build a car. And of course, Tesla hasn't commented on it, but they have to be paying that price as well. So there's a very real possibility that they're not going to be able to post a profit, or if they do, it's going to be very short-lived. They're going to have an infusion of capital from somewhere else. And they also have $1 billion in debt that's coming due that they're going to have to find a way to fund without positive cash flow. So from an investment standpoint, high risk. It's difficult to say how much of a reward there is. They've toyed around with making semis. Most sort of analysts or industry insiders sort of feel that that's kind of a waste of resources right now, that they should be focused predominantly on what they've been doing. They're looking to make a Model Y, which would sort of be, the Model 3 was the everyday version of the Model S, or the everyman's version, or every woman's version of the Model S. The Model Y is that from the Model X, which is sort of the SUV everyday EV, which will be interesting to see. I have to anticipate it's going to be probably in the 50s. You just can't make an EV cheaper, particularly with the performance they're getting. You just can't make it cheaper than internal combustion engine. And they've sort of been selling them at that price point, but eventually it comes home to roost. These EV cars are going to cost more than internal combustion engines. They just require more from the standpoint of manufacturing, requires a lot more energy to produce them, particularly the battery packs, and much more refinement in materials, which just leads to higher costs. There's really no way around it. So they've sort of lived on this idea or this notion that they could completely upend the traditional model of car making, and there's to some extent Musk followers sort of believe that Elon has this ability to completely revolutionize manufacturing processes, completely revolutionize the economics of electric vehicles, can sort of put everything on its head. I don't necessarily want to use the term cult-like in terms of following, but sometimes it's kind of in that territory where he's supposed to do things that really would make him almost godlike. Certainly would endow him with capabilities far beyond any of the other very experienced, intelligent, diligent, creative individuals that are presently in executive positions or in creative positions for the myriad of car makers around the world. So that's the short of it. To go into a lot more detail in the article on Seeking Alpha with regards to more of the technical, what's going on in terms of his demand slipping at this point. There were 500,000 individuals that had signed up for a refundable $1,000 deposit. How many of those individuals are, and this was at the point in time when Model 3s, the base price had been described as being $35,000, which we haven't seen yet. How many of these individuals, the base price essentially now being $49,000 and up, how many of these individuals who plop down $1,000 are going to stick around? And where is Tesla going to go if they lose some of these individuals, if they lose some of these consumers? Got the link at the bottom of the page. If you didn't come here through the Seeking Alpha article, you certainly can go and read that article. It goes into a more descriptive detail from an investor's perspective with regards to Tesla. It's a part one for the article, so it's part one for this video series, and then part two, we're going to discuss the economics of ownership, in particular from the standpoint of EV. Are you ever going to be able to recoup what is going to be a more expensive, a higher cost of initial ownership, the purchase price of the vehicle? on a basis of like EV vehicle compared to like internal combustion gas vehicle or like hybrid vehicle, sort of which is the most economical and how long will you have to own if you pay more for a hybrid or for an EV, which you're going to have to do. How long does it take for you to make that back in the pump under various sort of gas price assumptions? You can get there eventually. Of course, you're going to pay, in the EV case, you're going to have to pay fuel costs in the form of electricity, which is generally generated by natural gas. And that leads into sort of the ecology or the greenness. Exactly how green is an EV? Is it more green than a hybrid? Hint, hint, no. It at this point is not, unless you live in Vermont, where energy is remarkably green. There's the majority of energy source in Vermont is not from natural gas. It's from renewables, which is a story in and of itself. But for most of the rest of the country, when you charge up, even though the car itself in an EV does not produce emissions, charging the car is going to be drawing from a power plant, which does produce emissions. So you are producing emissions sort of indirectly. The cause of causing the car is going to produce emissions. So we'll talk about that. And then some of the tall tales and unrealistic outlooks that have been a part of the salesmanship and the gamesmanship of Elon Musk and of Tesla. So until then, have a good day. Thanks again for watching.